The Nintendo Switch presentation is a week away, and while we have a few leaks, rumors, and hints at what to expect, I thought, why not make my own list of Nintendo Switch predictions? Then, after January 12th, you can all come back here and tell me how wrong I was. Make sure you press caps lock to really get the point across, and by all means, make your own list of predictions. To make it a bit more interesting, these aren't going to be the same type of predictions everyone else is making. 3 to 4 hour battery life and USB Type-C is, at this point, common sense for the Nintendo Switch. But seriously, let's have a small game out of this. In this video, I'll give 10 predictions for the Nintendo Switch. If I get more than 3 of these wrong, feel free to come back and tell me how horrible I did. So let's begin with number 1, price and release date. I expect Nintendo to reveal the price along with the release date at one of 2 spots, either at the very beginning of the conference, after a sizzle reel, or a quick trailer showing off games that will be announced during the show. It will either end with the date and price on the screen, or someone from Nintendo, likely the new president, will walk out on stage and give us the release date and price directly after the intro trailer. Alternatively, I was thinking it could be the final thing they show, but that has bad idea written all over it, considering they will need to announce when certain games will be releasing. And if most of the games have a release date of, let's say, March 18th, then it'll kinda be obvious the console release date will also fall on that date. And they can't go the entire show without giving release dates for their games. So my prediction is March 18th at $300. This will either be the price of the base console or a bundle. Number 2, the specs. I don't imagine Nintendo going as in-depth as Mark Cerny did during the PlayStation 4 or PS4 Pro reveal, but I do expect Nintendo to briefly discuss the power of the console. Maybe a small mention like saying it is considerably more powerful than the Wii U, or 3 to 4 times as powerful as the Wii U. Something along those lines. I don't expect a 10-minute lecture on the CPU and GPU clock speeds like we got at the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One events. During the Wii U presentation, they did mention the console had 2 GB of RAM, with 1 being reserved for the console's operating system. So perhaps they will do the same here and mention the console has, let's say, 4 GB of RAM, which rumors suggest, with 1 GB being reserved for the operating system and background tasks, which would still put it at 3 times more RAM than the Wii U had for games. And that isn't bad at all, considering what the Wii was able to pull off with only 1 GB of RAM being shared between the CPU and the GPU for games. If I'm remembering correctly, the Xbox One launched with an 8-core CPU and 8 GB of RAM, which sounds awesome. But the games could only use 6 of those CPU cores and 5 GB of RAM, as 2 cores and up to 3 GB of RAM were being used by the operating system and background processes, while 10% of the GPU power was dedicated to the Kinect. So the Wii U and potentially the Switch giving 1 GB of RAM to the operating system isn't bad at all. I don't expect Nintendo Switch's operating system to be that intensive on the hardware, but hopefully it'll be much faster than the Wii U was, as loading times were horrible for it. Anyways, back to the specs. I expect Nintendo to at least mention them, maybe spend 3 to 4 minutes talking about it, but going nowhere as in-depth as Microsoft or PlayStation has with their console. Also, a small fun fact, Nintendo has been known to say they don't like to focus on a console's specs or having the most powerful console. But when Reggie was promoting the Wii U before launch on a talk show, I remember him bragging about, yes, bragging, about how when the Wii U launches, it'll be the most powerful console on the market. And that only lasted for like a year, but good for you, Reggie. Number 3, Breath of the Wild's launch date. This is a big one. We thought it was going to release in 2015. We were told it was going to release in 2015, but nope, delayed until 2016, Nintendo said. And we said okay as we waited patiently and crawled back inside our holes. Then, once again, with a single tweet, it was delayed once more, this time until 2017. Okay, we said, as we crawled even deeper into our holes. Well, the time has come, and the Nintendo Switch, as well as a potentially huge lineup of games, will have official release dates. And if Breath of the Wild isn't one of them, if they seriously have this entire press conference, presentation, or whatever they're calling it, and they say the words, "Expect more information on Breath of the Wild in the near future," I'm pretty sure fans will riot. Or at least millions will say they're boycotting the Switch and send countless tweets to Nintendo about how horrible they are. As soon as they're all done putting in their pre-orders, that is. Being serious for a moment, some controversy has came recently on the actual release date. Some rumors suggest a summer or spring release, while others expect it to launch alongside the Switch. Then some say it'll launch alongside the Switch in North America and Japan, but Europe will be delayed. While it isn't uncommon for companies to delay games for release in other countries, it will be disappointing. I mean, fans are still waiting on that Mother 3 localization for their Game Boy Advance. Just recently, Persona 5 released in September of 2016 for Japan, but localization is going to take until April of 2017 for America. So while everyone will eventually receive the game, a delay for an entire continent will surely sting. Though for a little more money, they can always import it. Personally, I'm not getting my hopes up for a day one release alongside the Switch. So I expect a late spring or early summer release just because, well, it's 2017 and I thought I'd originally be playing the game in late 2015 and looking forward to the news of the next Zelda game after Breath of the Wild to be launching in 2017 or 2018. So I'm keeping my guard up for this one. Number 4, the new Mario game. We have rumors of Luigi's Mansion 3, a crazy Mario and Rabbids game from Ubisoft, and we've already seen Mario Kart during the Switch reveal, with all of these featuring Mario characters. So with Breath of the Wild potentially launching on day one or within the first few months of the Switch's life, I expect the next big Super Mario game, Galaxy 3, or the spiritual successor to Super Mario 64, whatever this new Mario game is going to be, I expect a small trailer showing off some new awesome ideas they have incorporated into the game. But I expect them to announce it as a holiday title or at least to come later. Something fans can look forward to getting later on, and they'll need something to talk about during their E3 presentation, right? It'll be too early for a new Zelda game. Star Fox just came out, and while I liked the game, it was a huge failure. The only other thing they would have for holiday sales would be Metroid, and that franchise honestly doesn't sell that well. I for one love the series, as do many others, but the reason Nintendo hasn't focused much on it is because it doesn't sell well. Why do we get some type of a new Mario game every year? Because Mario sells. With that said, I think they'll be looking at Mario to push those holiday sales, and if they launched it alongside the new Zelda game, with the rumored enhanced ports of Mario Kart, Smash Bros, and Splatoon, with the rumored Luigi's Mansion 3 and Mario Rabbids crossover, they would be competing with themselves. The average consumer will likely be buying 3, maybe 4 AAA games at most during launch. And if they flood the launch window with all of these great games, they're only going to hurt themselves. So pacing is key here. Number 5, the rumored games. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of rumored games. And I'm going out on a limb and saying yes, they all exist and we will see all of them. Obviously, we've seen Splatoon and Mario Kart during the trailer, but alongside those rumors was also Smash Bros getting a port as well. And now we have this Mario and Rabbids hybrid game. I expect every one of these to be confirmed and true. Nintendo will go into detail on how they are different from their Wii U versions and why you should basically rebuy the same game, but for the Switch. I'm also going to go further and say these ports will at the most be $50. Not 60. Number 6, GameCube on the Virtual Console. I expect Nintendo to announce at least 6 games coming to the Switch via the Virtual Console for the GameCube. Now, I'm not completely sure what games I think they'll be launching, so the game specifically isn't part of this, but mentioning at least 6 GameCube games is. So the games that I do think they'll be launching is Mario Sunshine, obviously, possibly the first Pikmin game, Luigi's Mansion, Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Kart Double Dash, and finally, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I don't expect them all to be launch titles, but I do expect them to be announced with more games being announced in the near future. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and the Metroid Prime games are all playable on the Wii U or have had official remakes for the Wii U, so I don't expect them to be mentioned. Just please Nintendo, please let them render in proper HD. 720p would be fine, 1080p would be better, and let the games that are capable run in widescreen. If you do this, I'd happily pay $40 for a game that came out 15 years ago. Number 7. Pokemon on the Switch. That's right, the 3rd edition of the Sun and Moon games. Playing these games in true widescreen, not the 5x3 weird thing Nintendo decided was a good idea for the 3DS, but full 16:9 widescreen. In full HD, hopefully 1080p, having a second analog stick to move the camera however you want, over 20 new Pokemon exclusive to the Stars version, and finally, being able to officially play a mainline Pokemon game on the big TV. What could be better? Number 8, the JoyCons. I expect Nintendo to keep their accessory gimmick going. Not as bad as it was in the Wii era, but still strong. I think they will release different types of grips or controllers that the Joy-Cons can slide on or snap onto. I also expect them to mention the batteries inside the Joy-Cons to also charge the Switch as a secondary function. I think they will briefly, very briefly, touch on the Joy-Cons having Motion Plus controls for certain games or for when they decide to port certain Wii or Wii U games over, but it will not be a focus for most Switch games. Number 9, a new Zelda game. I know, we're already getting Breath of the Wild this year, but Nintendo has 2 separate teams that work on Zelda. The team that worked on Wind Waker HD alongside the beginning of Breath of the Wild, and the team that worked on the 3DS Zelda games like A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes. Again, we know Breath of the Wild will be releasing soon, but I also expect Nintendo to either hint at or mention a handheld Zelda game coming to the Switch. What I mean is a top-down 2.5D game like A Link Between Worlds or Spirit Tracks, but in full HD. Honestly, I'd be happy with those games. Just release an HD remake for A Link Between Worlds or a Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks HD collection. With, and this is important, with traditional controls. Even bad Zelda games are better than most other games. Yes, I'm biased, sue me. But in my opinion, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks are some of the worst Zelda games. Great stories, great dungeons, great characters, awesome new ideas, but horrible controls. Will we ever get this? Probably not. But going back to the original topic, I expect some type of mobile Zelda game to be mentioned for the Switch, whether it's a brand new title or a port of an older handheld game coming to the Switch. Number 10, at least one new IP. We're getting a new console, new games, and a new IP. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know, but that's my prediction. I'll take this one a step further and say that it's a new IP with someone like Miyamoto, Aonuma, or Sakurai behind it. Maybe not one of them specifically, but someone as well known and as influential in the company as one of them. I will go a little further out on this limb and say that it will be either an adventure or RPG type of game. It won't be a shooter like Splatoon, it won't be a racing game like Mario Kart or F-Zero, and not a platformer like Mario or Donkey Kong Country, but an open world-ish type adventure game, something more like Zelda or Xenoblade. And that's my list. If you can make a better one, please do. Then, as I said earlier, come back after the 12th and tell me how wrong I was. These are my predictions, not just for the presentation, but for the future of the Nintendo Switch. I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, give this video a like and share it with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future gaming news, theories, rumors, and discussions. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how it could be improved. Your feedback is the most important part of bringing the quality of content on this channel to be the best that it can be. I would like to take this time to give a huge thank you to this month's Patreon supporters: Jonathan, The Edge Network, Magic Tech Review, John Frank, and Harris Priest. This video was made possible by supporters on Patreon. If you would also like to support this channel, head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse where you can support this channel as well. Rewards vary from having your topic featured on a future discussion, seeing videos early, joining as a guest on a video, shoutouts, and having a custom avatar similar to my own drawn of you to match any video game or anime art style that you would like. Mine is of myself as Link, but you could choose to have yours any way that you would like. Finally, I would like to thank my friends CS Guitar 89 and Gnomo Designs for providing the music and artwork for this video.